All right, family, happy Sunday. Welcome to a little special webinar, guys. Pendy is kind enough to walk us through kind of an introduction to coding, how to code, some recent results he's had. And yeah, I don't really know what he's got planned, but I am excited. So gonna let him talk, guys. He's gonna lead the way. And yeah, let's have some fun. Any questions, just drop them in the chat and he'll answer them as we go or at the end, whatever he needs. But all ears, Pendy. Let me know if you need me.
Yep, great. If you can, if I miss any questions, just holler out, interrupt me. It's no problem.
I got you. I'll be a crazy moderator.
Great. So these are what we're looking at right now are just the results of the auto trades that I've kicked off this week. This is paper trading. I definitely recommend that you test out in paper trade. Unfortunately, you can't test some of these features in on demand, but you can fully test all the features live during the market during paper trading. So that's at least a nice feature. So you can kind of play with your parameters and figure out what you like. So I won't go over this a whole bunch, but we had good results this week. All the losers were kept kind of small. Some of the parameters I put in were to try to get out if it goes against us. And down here, we kind of have the average win to loss. So about a 3-to-1, which is favorable. So I'm just going to jump right in. So there are basically some limitations to how you can set up auto trading orders in Thinkorswim. I would love to be able to use some of the custom tools that I've built, but once you start getting too complicated on the coding, it can't handle that as far as an order parameter. And I'll show you specifically what I'm talking about, but basically you have to use the stock indicators that Thinkorswim provides because their code is already built into the background. When you start trying to use a custom code that has too many definition statements, it's called recursive, where you define something and then bring it up again later. I'll show you examples of all this, but basically I'm going to start with SPX on Friday because even, we all heard Chan getting some good scalps in there. So I figured this would be a good place to start. So just for like simple indicators, I've thrown up the 1 minute, the 5 minute, and the 8, 15, and 21 EMAs. And so we can see on the 1 minute, we kind of broke through them a little bit. And then right where they all squeezed together is where we exploded up, pulled back to the 15, exploded up again. And then when we violated all of them, the trend is over and we're reversing. And then on the 5 minute, you can see we kind of chopped, and about the point where we hit the 8 EMA is where these all squeeze together. We explode up, the pullback that hits the 15 over here hits the 8 here. Again, we bounce up, and then when we start to fall with pretty equal candles, it's over. I just point out these two differences because these are the kinds of parameters you can code for. So let's just say you want to get a piece, you're not so worried about hitting the bottom and the top. You never really should be when you're getting into this kind of stuff. But, even just getting a piece. So for instance, let's say on the 1 minute, a breaking above the 8 EMA and then a breaking below the 8 EMA would have got you the bulk of this move. Or even, if you change your parameter to say when we close below the 21, definitely get out, you would have got all of that move to right about here. Can you guys see my prices? Sorry, let me move some of this Zoom stuff. Okay, there we go. Sorry, the Zoom stuff was in my way. So, you could have got in right at that 34.95, got out at 35.12 with just the simple parameters of breaking above and then breaking below, so crossing. So I played on Friday the 35.10, 15, and the 3500. So down here, I have the 3510. Again, with more stock indicators. RSI is a good indicator. You can actually code in this trigger of falling below 70 on the RSI on a 5 minute, and that's a very great exit as well. So let's say we want to do this. Let's say we want to jump into the 3510s at open. We're seeing this chop, and so we just kick off an order for the 3510s. How do we want to do that? So we're going to pull up, and I won't have the option available to me at the moment, but at least the same expiration. But let's just say we played the next day's expiration. So I'm going to buy this 3510, and right over here is a cog wheel where we start a conditional order that gets us into an auto trade. So first, one thing that helps is copy the strike or the ticker for the option we're going to play, and then paste that in here. So what we're doing down here are conditions, and normally people build conditions off of the stock itself. But as you know, with SPX, we're not going to get any volume or anything. But if we actually put the study to look at the option itself, we do get our volume, and we do get to maybe react to fluctuations in that volume. So I like to build my studies, at least everything this week was off of the ticker of the actual option I'm playing. And then you come over here to method and you go down to study and edit. Now this, my friends, is how we can start to learn how to code, even if we have basically no background at all, right? So we were looking at the 5 and the 1 minute. Let's pull up that 1 minute, and let's say we're going to code for that breaking above the 8 EMA and then falling below the 21 EMA. We'll go with that. So we're going to add a condition. If you guys are following me, you know, I basically just changed the time frame up here, and you can turn off the after hours. Actually, it doesn't really matter on SPX, right? So even on the options, really, it doesn't affect it. But we are on the 1 minute. We're going to add a condition, and this allows you to, through drop downs and picking simple things, a code will emerge. So let's say when the price, the close gets above, crosses above a study, and we will look for, I like to use exponential moving averages, so we'll pick that. We're going to want to get when it crosses above the 8. And really, if you want, you could say the 21, since it would be stacked a little bit lower, but we saw in the 1 minute, they were all right on top of each other. So either way, I'm just going to go with the 8 as the entry. And then there are other things that can be plotted or reacted to, but we're just going to go off of the average exponential. And we don't need anything else there. One thing to note is, let's say we want to have this react if any of these parameters happen within a few bars of each other, because sometimes you're going to build, say, like RSI or another indicator that you want to stack your conditions so that it's like when all the stars align. You can adjust this within so many bars so that it will actually look back a few bars. So let's say like you're wanting to cross over an EMA right as the RSI is crossing above 30. And if you guys aren't familiar with RSI, I'll show you in a second. But that's an indication when you cross above 30 that we've gotten out of being oversold and we might start moving up. So if you wanted to stack a couple of parameters together, you could put them within a few bars of each other, and then they don't have to all happen on the same bar, but if they're in the same ballpark, it's like stacking catalysts, which we're taught, right? So that is one thing you can adjust. I'm just going to put it to 4 bars just to show you how it can affect it. Offset is another thing that you can normally, if it notices this parameter being met, it's going to execute on the next bars open. You can offset that if you want. So the same with over here. We can get into that further, or I can answer questions. But let's just be basic for now. We're just closing the close price crossing above the 8 EMA within a few bars, so that we have some grace built in there. I'll just change it to 3. It doesn't really matter. So we've saved that condition, and now you'll see there is that condition spelled out here in the condition wizard. If you go over to this tab, you can actually see the code that built that. So very simply, when I started getting into Thinkorswim and learning that I could code it and whatnot, this is how I started learning how to build all of the different pieces of conditions and put together custom code. So this is a great tool that you can start just drop down picking things and learning how it's built in the background. But we'll come back over here just to keep the conditions. And what you'll notice down here is a plot of the option itself. And what you're seeing down here are plots of when that condition has been met. So the trigger has happened. So we can even add our studies straight to this. So where am I? Here we go. Where's my study set? Sorry. Well, wonderful. Let's see the movie.
Pendy, I think on paper they
There they
disappear
are.
or simulated.
Yeah, it's okay. So I just saw the moving average. Where were you? There it is. So let's just say that is the 8. So it's getting a trigger right here as the close of the next bar gets above and holds. So within 3 bars, right? So we see a trigger. Oh, sorry, it's this little blip here. We see a trigger there. And even though it fell again, we see a couple. So we have a few bars of crossing over while it's figuring itself out. So basically, these are just showing you how that would have fired off. This is the buy signal that you're trying to get into. So as we've seen with EMAs, once you're above, you're bullish. Once you drop below, you're bearish. So this would be the buy signal that you're wanting to try and get into at this point. Even on this pullback, it got in. This is how you can kind of see a back testing based on recent activity of what went on the 1-minute chart, because this is all Friday, right? So when we saw the other chart hitting the EMAs, it probably would have been right about 950 that we would have got in for, let's say, and this is not a 0 day just because that wasn't on the chain. This is Mondays, so it's a little more expensive, but you would have got in for 13. And then when you cross back below up here, let's say a crossing 21. So 13 to 21, something like that. So if you wanted to finish out this order, you're going to hit OK. Some things you're going to want to make sure are correct or that are set properly. You want to make sure this is set to true, because sometimes when you're building conditions, like let's say we say the price is greater than something or other, it will auto read the greater than and change it to this, but you're building a condition, so you always want to make sure this is true. And then when it comes to a conditional order like this, we want to set it to market because we don't want it to start fighting price. And in fact, like if you try to set it to mark and the options are moving too fast, it's not going to get it. It'll show you at least that it's trying to, but you won't be getting the auto order. So we set it to market, and you can set it today if it's a 0 day and you just want to get in and out and you're trying to keep your parameters tighter, or you can set it good to cancel. So like some of the BA play that I made this week, which started on the 15th and went to the 16th. I actually kicked that order off on the 14th, I believe, and was just looking for parameters to be met and set it good to cancel so that it would carry over a few days. So it's like a swing trade. I was watching BA fall, and I said at some point it's kind of going to bottom and start to show signs of gaining strength. So that's where I got in the 15th at around 11 for 64. And then it gapped up overnight, if you guys remember, like 10 points. So I woke up to it being 8, but I let it still do the auto trade to get out of it. So the same parameters that I had set for when it starts to kind of look oversold or it's starting to reverse direction took care of the order as well. The way that this works is you have to build each leg. So we have built a buy order, and you can, change your quantity or anything in this window. But we build a buy order at market price for this option when a condition is met. We're going to save that, and you confirm the send. They're going to warn you because it's true. When there's liquidity or volatility, they can adjust these prices based on what the market is, and you're getting into a study-based order, and they carry very special risks. This is true. This is why you should back test it. And once you feel confident, you can even restrict your parameters to only pick up options in a certain price range as you test it out. But as we saw on the chart, on a simple, not even that big day for SPX, when it hits an EMA, it might bounce. So you can just set a parameter out there to watch for it. So we're going to kick this off and hit send. And so that order will just sit out there. And we talked about this a little bit in the chat. You'll notice when you kick out like a limit order or an order at the bid or something, it'll say working and it'll be sitting there. When we kick out a conditional order, it has a status of awaiting a condition. The way I've read this, and I think I understand that, is that's not an order that's visible to the market. It's actually sitting in your queue, waiting for those conditions locally, and then when those are met, it kicks off a simple market order. So that's going to play out however it plays out, right? But it hopefully shouldn't necessarily, if you're putting in the right kind of parameters, like a point where it's reversing through the mean, they shouldn't be pumping premiums or see your order like a limit order to where they could pump the premiums just for you, like we've seen. So that's going to sit out there and wait for that to kick off. And you can then just kind of keep building orders. So, like when we have our nightly prep, we go through our watch list. I would kind of start working around at what strikes I wanted to get for the week where I thought the stock could go. And then I'd build conditional orders in the morning and just kind of kick them off and let them go for a couple of days. And they'd fire here and there. And then what you will want to watch for is once they fire, you have to kick off the sell order. So this is sitting up here at, we'll go to the sell order, and same thing, we can build a condition on the option itself. Go back to the 1 minute, just, because we're trying to keep it tight. It's a 0 day, right? So we want to get in and out and lock our gains. So we can get rid of this, add a new condition for the price close crossing below steady, exponential moving average, and we'll go with the 21 just so we don't get shaken out of anything. That's a true shift over, and we'll just give it a few bars. And so you can see we would have gotten in somewhere down here, and the exit signal would have come in and started on this bar at around $2,000 if it That was the open 19. What's the open 19.9? So that's basically it for the exit order. So basically the way I did this all week, I kicked out a bunch of buy orders. I sat around and waited. When I saw that those got their fire and got me into the play, I'd watch it, maybe wait a few minutes just to see if we are in a squeeze or if we are kind of bouncing around means or anything I might use as a trigger. But once it started to set a direction, or maybe even immediately, like a few minutes after it kicked off, I would just kick out the parameter because I've built in certain things to get me out if it goes against me, right? So once I get the buy order and it's locked in and it's popped up in my current positions, then I build the sell order. And when I feel comfortable, I'll kick that off and send it. And again, it's going to sit out there and wait for those conditions. So one thing we can look at now, oops, sorry, is we'll look at the option itself. So, excuse me. So let's say we're looking at the 35.15s just because it's a little further out, so you might get a little more fluctuation in your indicators. The day started, and are you guys familiar with RSI? It's the relative strength index. When you get up to above 70, it wants to revert and go back to 30, and it kind of bounces around. It measures kind of the momentum, but it's a very simple indicator that a lot of newer folks use. So you could do something as simple as the RSI crossing back above 50 and closing below 70, and you would have picked up pretty much the same move, maybe even in a little earlier, because it is an inflection point, and the EMAs were kind of more up here near the VWAP. But you can even do plays against VWAP since it's a stock indicator, crossing above VWAP, crossing below, that kind of thing. Let's see. I mean, that covers kind of some of the basics. Do you guys have any questions up to this point?
Oh my. I don't have any. If you guys have any, just drop them in the chat. There you go, Pendy.
Yeah, so you can do simply when the price crosses. So yeah, when you build the condition, let's use this as an example. So I was using close, which it's the simplest way to use because you let a bar completely close no matter what time frame you're on, so you don't get shaken out if it starts to pull back. And yeah, but we go to edit. If we add the ask or the bid, like current price itself is always moving. So I mean, you can base it on those kinds of built-in functions that are here, the high or the low. So if in a 5-minute bar it's going to hit a high and then pull back hard, you can use the high of that bar. So when the high crosses above, if you think it's going to 34.15, if the high crosses above 34.10, it'll get you out right then if you want. So I think that answers Bry's question. And then AD, yep. And then AD, the volume rate of change that I got down there. Yeah. So I have been playing with a lot of these stock indicators for a long time, just because I'm inquisitive. I'm always looking at different ways to code things. So I've used the volume rate of change. It can be great, especially when there are spikes. So you can code for these higher than normal percentage spikes in the volume. So let's say, for instance, this spike right here, after it's hit its high and it's pulling back, it's a pretty huge, everyone cashing in their gains and getting out, right? Just like we hit a peak up here, and when we pull back, we start seeing some volume spikes as we go up, and we see another pullback. There's a volume spike right there on our way to VWAP. So, and that's VWAP for the option itself. So there are, hundreds of indicators out there. I've used a number of them. Some of the ones this week were actually based off this volume zone oscillator, which was a little new to me, but I have a number of custom codes that I use in my intraday that, let me go back to an SPX chart. There we go. Or we could even look at the BA chart for next week. Darn it, where did it go? There it is. BA. I played the 167.5s. Right, so I got in around, it was 11, 1050, something like that. So, we got above VWAP for the option itself, and we consolidated, but then right about 1050 was the bar before we start to pop. So I had some indications set up. One of them was this volume zone oscillator for, let's see, where was that? It was right about here. So there was some crossing back above zero after an open. A lot of times at open, you'll see, the way this works, it's an oscillator. It's kind of in the way like RSI. When we start breaking out to the low ends, we're oversold. When we start getting up here, we're overbought. So basically I let it do its thing for the day. And when it started to come down, I think I kicked off an order for crossing back above zero. And so it got in there. And then I think my exit order that I kicked off towards the end of the day, because I think I was playing next week's strike anyway. I'm not sure. No, I guess I was playing this week's because of the price. Sorry. But I didn't want to lock it this day. It was meant to be a swing trade, just the way. So I let the sell parameter. I let it do what it wanted for the day, and after a while, I set the sell parameter, and it got out directly at open. I think it was like 931, 35 for 815. So that's just part of that indicator that I was using to answer you, AD. And then let's see, what do we got? Would you use multiple indicator signals when setting the order, or at least for entry? Yeah, so I have, if you guys want, we can even do that. I have set multiple, I'll just even give you, let's see. No, that's not it. This one. So this was some of the code that went into the buy signals and sell signals this week. When we see these volume oscillator get above or below certain values, and then I'll even build in, or it crosses below zero, or RSI starts to do something interesting, or to keep it from going against me, if once I get in, RSI starts to cross below 30, well, then it's gone the wrong way, so get me out, that kind of thing. So you can build in multiple codes. And a nice thing is, once you build in that code, and let me show you something cool, is once you have an order that you've set, you can come in and make a duplicate, and your parameters should hold. So you can go in and see them. But once you build a code and it's something you want to test, you can copy this, and I like to put it into a notepad so that as I'm building orders, you know, when I go to create a new one, I just come in and plop in the code and hit OK and move on. Do you build condition sell orders after the buy ones have filled? Could we build both orders and save the sell to be able to send right after? I don't know if you can tie the sell to not kick off before the buy, but at least the way I did it this week, whenever I got a buy signal, now I'm intrigued, right? So I'm going to pull up the chart. I'm going to see what's it doing? Why did it get in? How does it look? Is this going to turn into, you know, the way I shaped it, at least the target I went for? Is this something I think is going to hit today? Is it something I think it's going to hit tomorrow? So I'll gauge it at first. A number of these I did just, I pulled up, I looked at it and I said, okay, let's just kick off the sell order. And if it gets me out quickly, it does. And it did, you know, and some of those were just a buck here and there, you know, like $2 here and $1.75 or 25 bucks here. You know, there were ones that once I kicked it off, it executed properly because it was a good pullback, but it didn't. It did go again, so it could have got more. But you know, that's something you do have to gauge, right? So you can sit and watch the pullbacks if it's early in the day, and gauge it yourself, and then kick off the sell. But if you just want to be safe and lock it in, you know, you can kick off the sell immediately. I kind of did a mix, but most of the ones this week were as soon as it locked in and I liked the way things looked and I thought it was going to not give me a sell signal immediately, you know, I would kick off the sell signal. Let's see. Set the order to recognize above 8 EMA cross VWAP and Bollinger Bands crossing outside of Geltner. Yeah, so I think those are all conditions that you could actually build together, Tim. Is that something you guys want to like build together? See if it's, you know, stacking all those together? Yeah, okay, great. So we're gonna do a buy order. And does anyone want to use like any certain stock or any move that happened this week, or, you know, I don't know, Datadog? Okay.
Google.
Google.
Nah, use whatever works.
What are you thinking, Datadog this day or something?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Quiet, Google. I said Google, and she chirped up over there.
She's always listening. Was that the gap fill day?
Yeah, I mean, what were you looking for on Datadog?
I don't know. AD called it out.
Yeah. That would have been a pretty simple play. Gap down, gap up. I don't know. AD's not answering. Should we look at Google instead? All right, let's just now AD's chirping up. We'll look at this Monday on Google, and then we'll go back to AD on Datadog. So let's see if we're going to trade Google. And, you know, we'll be playing this week's. But what with the 1600s were the ones getting hit pretty hard, right? 6. Yeah, the 1600s. So let's see. Tim said crossing the 8, crossing VWAP, and Bollinger Bands crossing outside of Keltner channels. Ooh, this is going to be fun. Okay. Whoop, I forgot. We want to pick our target, copy that, just makes it simple. Now we'll start building our study. Get rid of the stock thing. So let's just size this up. You know, it's Monday, and you know we think it's possible, but we don't know if it's possible Monday. So maybe we think it's going to be a swing trade or something. So this is when I start thinking like, what time frame do I want to kick this off? It's if it's a 0 day and a Friday, I'm probably going to be on the 1 minute just to get the hard breakouts and get out quick so I can get the biggest piece of premium, right? But if it's swing trade and it's something you think Google's going to do this week, you might set it more to the 5 or even the 30 or the 15, right? So just for fun, we'll go with the 5. I think everything I kicked off this week was based on the 5, but I would notice some of the same triggers happening around the same time on the 30 as well. So unfortunately, you can't do different time frames, but it was interesting at least to see when I would build orders, I would see the same trigger spikes on the 5 and the 30 at about the same time, like some fluctuation in the stock. So we're going to add our condition. We've got price. If you guys want, we'll go with high, cross and above the 8 EMA. And since we're going to stack a few conditions together, let's give it 4 bars so that they don't all have to hit on the same bar, but they should potentially hit around the same time, right? So we'll put the 4 bars in. We got a bunch of spikes, right? But as we build our conditions and stack them together, you're going to see those, turn down to maybe just one spike right at a squeeze point right before it breaks out. So the next condition was crossing above VWAP, price high, crosses above VWAP. Oh, that's VWAP, not an option. Is it? I thought it was. I do believe it is an option. Hold on a sec. So this is me getting into coding for a second. And VWAP, which it does recognize. Okay, crosses above. Or no, sorry, it was. So sorry, I'm just going to free code this just since VWAP wasn't popping up. High crosses above VWAP. Right? There we go. Let's see if that'll come back over. There we go. It didn't show up as a study, but I think it's actually because VWAP is considered a standard function, so you can find it in another area than studies. I think I just clicked on the wrong thing in the drop down. And then the last condition was Bollinger Bands cross outside of Keltner channels. All right, let's see what we can do. We've got our Bollinger Bands. Now, we have our upper and our lower band, right? So let's say we're going to shoot in our midline. Let's say we're going to shoot for the upper band crossing above the Keltner, right? Upper band. Let's see, study Keltner. And, we can set different things. If some of us like to set this to 1 or 2. I think 1.5 is kind of the standard. What do you want to do there, Tim? You want to do 2 or 1? We are in the 5 minutes. So, these are all things you kind of want to gauge. But we'll leave it at the 1.5. Yeah, okay. And then we will also make that within 4 bars. And so as you see, we're starting to get a lot fewer spikes. And let me see if there's anything else I need to set here. I think we're good. Yeah, pretty simple. So, oh, wait a minute. Now we've lost all of our spikes. So maybe we've gotten a little too restrictive on what we're doing. Let's add these to see what's going on with the last condition. Bollinger Bands are right there. And then let's add the Keltners. Oh, there's an edit studies. Ha ha ha. Wonderful. Makes it easier. Okay, so this at least can be a little chaotic on an options chart and on a smaller time frame. Let's just, for the hell of it, bump up to the 30-minute. Here we go. So we've got our Bollinger Bands squeezing here, and the upper crossing above the, oh, I think Tim may have helped point out that we didn't set this parameter. Thank you, Tim. I'm sorry. So we set the upper band here, but it was still left to the average. So we want to say when the upper band of the Bollinger Band breaks outside of the upper band of the Keltner, right? So basically right around there. Hopefully that helps at least that parameter, but we still aren't seeing any signals here. So we have a chance that we're too restrictive. Just for a second, let's make sure I did forget within 4 bars. So that does not affect it. So we're a little too restrictive. Let's, for the sake of it, we're going to copy that code. And let's just see if this code alone does get any signals. Okay, it does. So we got a squeeze here, and it's almost reacting more like a break below the lower band than the upper. But we do have upper band set. Interesting. I don't know. This I can at least tell you on options charts, they can be a little more chaotic. And for instance, if we look, that's the theoretical price. Let me get rid of that because it's just confusing me. Where's the Bollinger Bands? Here's one. And is that the other? Okay. So, okay, we're seeing that even in this tight squeezing, the Keltners are all within the Bollinger Bands. So what we're seeing, basically, my point is on options charts, things act a little bit different and sometimes a little wonkier. But let's say we want to set it to the stock itself, okay? And this is something you can do. I like to work off the option chart with some of the parameters I use because some of the ones that help get out if it's going to go against me or if there's some kind of pullback that is bigger than normal or some news blip or whatever, I like to keep it strict to the option chart so it reacts faster than say the stock. I've seen differences, but let's get in. Option chart squeeze may not work as it's based off price. Right. So what we've done is we're gonna put in the ticker itself for the stock. We'll go into edit and we'll put it back, we'll say on a 30-minute, and we'll rebuild all, oh wait, I did copy them. So at least all but the last. And we'll save the and, it'll put it in. So the only when you drop in a thing like that, it just puts us all it's one condition. But just because it's an and, actually, if you probably dropped in an or, it might make 2. Now we'll do the study for Bollinger Bands, upper band, crossing above the Keltner, upper band, and within 4 bars. There we go. There's one clean, solid signal. So it could have been a long squeeze that finally started to break right here. And how nice, right at open or right before open. Yes, oh my, look at that move. So yeah, you can actually start to build in some of the conditions that we read about and that are built into the plays that we look for with the squeeze. You unfortunately can't use like you might be able to use a TTM squeeze. I've actually never used that the stock one to build one of these conditions. Maybe that's something I'll play with this week, or we can maybe play with at the end. But we know that like Tim said, the Bollinger Bands and the Keltners behaving like this is the same kind of indication. So we can at least break down what we know it to be into what is built into the system. And you can get, a little more creative as you want to. Like, let's say it doesn't have to be all of these conditions all at once. You want it to be this or that. Just like Chandler teaches us. When you're sizing up the stock for the week and you think it could get here and you kind of want to see these signs of pullback to this or that, that's something you can build into this to say, either this happens or that happens, and then once that happens, kick off a buy. Um, like one reason I use that volume oscillator, it's something I've noticed in the options charts that you'll see some pullback, maybe even at open, some profit taking, and then it rips really hard for the day. Sometimes I'll be watching those options that I'm wanting to play, and I'll notice that the pullback and the profit taking that's happening on the stock, it continues until a point where there's a huge volume spike on the option where everyone just got out of their position. They all got scared out, and then I see a volume spike where big money's taken all that, and then it rips, right? So that's one reason, at least, I've kind of looked at this volume oscillation to see when we're seeing these kinds of pullbacks or squeezes or slow fades like I saw in BA. When I see some kind of interesting volume activity, let's get in there, and then it pops the next day. So that is very interesting that we got that spike right there and this huge explosion. I mean, what was that 1488 up to 1588? Sheesh. It's beautiful. So that could have been your buy, and then anything you wanted could have been your exit. Let's look at just for the hell of it. Let's see what RSI did. Whew. So you could have even done like a exit below 80 on RSI, or 70 would have still got you out. It also might have got you out back there. So you would have got in here. It might have got you out there. But if you put in, say, an exit of RSI at 80, that's when it's really exploding. It's sustaining up above 80. That's a lot of movement on a simple indicator like RSI, right? If this is, say, a swing trade, right? So that could have been your exit to say you got in here when RSI is actually already above, strangely enough. But you could have said, okay, I'm up here on RSI and I'm going to swing this anyway. And I think it has a chance to pop tomorrow or now or whatever. You can say, based on where I'm at on this parameter, and that's how I did it a little bit this week on the volume oscillator. I'd adjust some of those parameters to say, if we're near zero right now, or we're headed to zero, how about when we cross back above zero? I don't need to wait till it gets to the other end of the oscillator. So I'll gauge it up and say, we got in, we're on the 30-minute. When we got in, RSI is already above 70, and we're like slow grinding, and I think it's just going to keep going. And like we've said, 1600 is a clear target, and this was last Friday. So this could have been a great, you left that out there all week, and then finally this, we're squeezing all week, and finally the signal kicks off, and you get the kind of the over the weekend and get out. So let's see, AD said, how about using conditions on a code to option and stock separately on one algo? Oh, AD, you just want to get even more complicated, don't you? It would get too restrictive, and I don't think that's actually an option. So just for fun, since we built this together, I'm going to save this for you guys. And I'll drop that in like coding or something. Let me throw it in my notes. Okay. And then we'll just get out of this. So to answer your question, yeah, you can only, I think, set it to, now you got me thinking. Oh, yep, that's what I just copied. Cancel out of this, go back to the 1600s. Copy that. Oh, there you go, AD. What do you know? We all learned something today. So you could actually, if you wanted to, say when the stock does this and when the option does this. That's not something I've tested. So let's just, for the fun of it, make it something simple like we'll go with like an EMA. What am I on? The 5 minute. We'll say price high, crosses above, EMA. Whoops, wrong one. Steady, that one. There we go. Let's say the 21 just for the hell of it. Okay, got quite a few, and we'll just leave it like that. So let's just see what we have. Buy one Google at, there we go. Buy one Google at current price when Google itself crosses these things and the option itself does these things. So yeah, you actually could get that complicated if you want to. But yes, you'll start getting restrictive, and you might not see all of the fires. And I'm not sure. At least you can't see that little chart that it gives you, the alert fire down here. I can't see it with both together in this back testing ability, right? But you can throw the two charts up next to each other and do your own back testing by throwing the stock indicators up on the charts and saying, when do all these stars align? So, that's kind of how, at least I started. You throw on the EMAs or whatever, you go look at the charts and you say this aligned and this aligned. Let's go back. And we're on Google now, but we were SPX. Come on. There we go. So you could even, these, just for simple example, even though these are different time frames and you can't set different time frames in the same condition, but now that you can add separate conditions, you could actually set up two different time frames. But you can say when all the stars align and all these things on the stock itself and the option itself with all the indicators. When you see those things all align, yes, that's how you can start to build those orders on paper, then go over and use the drop downs to Wizard to build them and see the code, save them, back test them, and start having fun. Let's see, what do we got? Shaheen, could you do something like if the stock price moves up 20 cents and the option price moves up like 40 cents as an entry to catch premium spikes? Let's see. So let's say the high. So, okay, there is one problem there. Entry price is going to happen, and it's not something you can code for. With something that you're going to kick out there and wait for conditions to happen, right? I mean, it sounds a little bit like, well, I guess at first I thought maybe it sounded more scalping, but you're saying when the 20 cents on the stock and the option moves up 40. So there's like not an equal movement in the stock and the option. The premium spikes. So let's see. I guess trying to think about this. You can do so. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to, if you're going from bar to bar, let's say we're like on a 1 minute. So let's switch up to a 1 minute. And let's say the price close of this bar crosses above the close. Where are we at? Sorry, price close. And we'll do an offset here of 1. So what this is going to do, the offset, and you'll see it in the code in a second. This puts in like from 1 bar ago as the code. So we're basically saying the close of the current bar crosses above the close of the previous bar. And wait, let me see. You can add a value. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think through this. Yeah, we'll go with this for now. At least the close of this bar crosses above or we'll go with is greater than the close of the previous bar. So you're catching the beginning of a move up, let's say, which you'll see a ton of those on a 1 minute. So for instance, this close was above the last. So let's say we're putting that into the stock. I guess I'm trying to think of exactly what you're trying to say, and I don't know if that's something we can put into a condition. I mean, we can say the stock moves up, does the option move up? And you can maybe even put in so it's going to start getting complicated because you can put in, say, a value, right? So let's say close crosses above a certain value. So I'm glad you bring it up because like this, let's say you just want to, you're starting the day and Google is opening, where did it open? 1562. And you want to say, okay, it's falling. I'll get in when the price gets back over 1562. So you can say the close of a bar is greater than or crosses above, or even the high, it doesn't have to be the close. But as it builds the bar, once it gets a high above 1562, that will trigger it. But you can set it to cross above a value instead of a study or a function or a price. So the value would be a hard set number. So you'd put in your 1562 and you'd save that. So right here, the close of this bar got back above 1562. So you can put in value, right? It's just going to be very complicated to try and do this quickly to say when a stock reaches a value and an option reaches a value. It's going to be pretty, restrictive and complicated. I think I'll kind of leave that one there. Let's see. I think that was the last question. Okay. Are there any other questions? I mean, just wanted to kind of give you guys a basic rundown, at least make you dangerous enough to start testing this a little bit on your own if you wanted. And, we all learn we can put in a number of conditions if we want based on the stock or the option. So it looks like you could even, and I basically just build the order, but it looks like you could even cancel that order based on a condition. So like, let's say you're trying to short at the top or something, and it just keeps blowing through, you could cancel it if there's a condition like it just keeps going or whatever. So you can start messing around here. I also have a couple of resources, some folks that I found online that put together videos as well. One is Han Tech. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar, but he's pretty good with coding, and he put together a video about conditional orders, kind of walking through the same basics that we just went through. Are there any more questions? Or, we can unmute and chat if you guys want. Yeah, it's Han Tech. I can probably find the video, and I'll drop the video. Let's look at Han Tech. I know I spelled it wrong. Almost Algo, I think is what he titled it. Yeah, Auto Trade Almost. So it's Han Tech LLC. He's got a whole website. He's very responsive if you actually wanted to try and get some indicator built or whatnot, or just trying to learn. He has a bunch of tutorials and videos, but this is a great video. I'll link it, and it walks through the same basics on how to use that condition wizard, it's called, to put together different conditions, and start learning the code and whatnot. So, any other questions?
Pendy, thank you for this, man. This was great. Great introduction.
Yep, no problem.
Let's see. Any questions, fam?
Let's see. There was that one trade that actually you took live as well. Yeah, sorry. Here we go. Where was it? Chan. It was NVIDIA. The 560s on.
Oh, that little wedge.
1015. Yeah, that wedge.
Fuck yeah.
So
you took that too?
Yeah, I'm curious when I kicked that order off. It might take me a second to find it. Let's see. NVIDIA by 60 was at 1010 on 1012. Oh no, I had a, yeah. No, I'm trying to remember. This one bought. Yeah. Okay, so I had a NVIDIA that I kicked off earlier in the week, but then I think when this wedge was forming, or let's go look at the chart for fun. NVIDIA. That was the 15th, which was this day. Oh, what's going on? It got in at 10:15, something like that. Yeah, I think it was this bounce. I don't know if it was the wedge. And 15, right? Yeah. It got in at, oh no, I'm sorry. It got in at 125, out at 220. So, oh, okay, yeah. It was going all day, or it did this oscillation and then it started to squeeze. And I think you're right. It was starting to wedge. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're talking like this whole day wedge. Yeah.
Yeah, it happened literally end of the day.
Yeah. So mine got in about 1325, and we were on. You guys should learn how to do this. NVIDIA 2010-16 call was a 560s 560. Yeah. Now I can pull up that chart without having to look around. So on the 15th, which was this day, 1325. Yep. So I had an indication, and I think it was actually that. It was a sharp change. So it was basically this volume zone oscillator line, average line that it makes, being greater than the previous, or even crossing above zero, something like I had a multi-conditional thing, this or that or this kind of thing. So it fired off right around here, and then it got out at 1520, which is right around there. So I guess as the option itself was crossing over VWAP and NVIDIA, 1525 was this basing right here. And then it got out at 1520-ish, which was almost the end of that drive. So yeah, that's how the auto trade took it, at least.
Oh my.
Because like I heard it ding off, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we just got in NVIDIA." And then you're like, "I'm in NVIDIA." Okay, now I'm locking up, and I'm like, "Okay, okay, the auto thing just locked up."
You sure the parameters aren't just follow Chan?
Maybe I got your IP. I don't know.
No,
It
that's
was
awesome, man.
Yeah, it was actually that volume oscillator, and I think maybe an RSI, just to try to get a peak. You know, the RSI pulls back pretty hard on a oversold over 70, and then dropping down. So yeah, it wasn't too crazy.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yep. What's AD saying? Let's see. AD's asking 15-minute chart or something. Oh, did you still want me to do your data dog AD or something? Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, um, I don't know what the 15-minute chart what you're asking, but I mean, yeah, you can build this on any time frame. You can, if you even want to build it off the daily, once we've say done a big reversion to the mean, and we're underneath it, you could even build a condition to get into something once we get back above on the daily on the 21 to say we're bullish again, or whatever. Oh, he was saying it was a 15-minute wedge on NVIDIA. Yep, yep. And it got in around the basing of those two, and then out somewhere in here. So yeah, I mean, at least the fun part about this is just if you think the stock is going to do this or that today, and you have kind of your if this then that built into your head, you can start to put it onto paper into conditions. You can kick it off on uh, paper trading. I mean, so that you can test it out to see how it would have done. Um, so at least build your confidence, or see like, is it getting me in and out of too many trades? I can tell you at least, if we look at what was there any canceled. I was going to show the canceled orders. Where are those? No, those are from today. I was going to show at least I had, it was in my screenshot from earlier in the week. I had probably 5 or 6 more orders out there. My total this week was 16 or 15 orders. I probably had maybe up as far as 25 orders that I kicked out this week, but the conditions for those orders were never met. And as it got towards the end of the week, I think maybe the stocks had moved too far away from where they started the week. They had been maybe slow grinding down. And so at least the conditions I was looking for were good, and that they should have only happened if we start to break out. I didn't get into any positions that on stocks that continued to keep dropping, and it might have been based on my. Hopefully, it was obviously based on my conditions. So I probably had at least 10 orders that never kicked off, and I think I finally canceled them like Thursday or Friday because I was shooting at maybe this week's expiration. But with some of these orders, I was shooting at next week's expiration as well, just to do some swings and see what happens. I think one was like Visa was squeezing and kind of falling this week's, or I can't remember. So anyway, hopefully that's enough for you guys to have fun and get dangerous and do some testing. Definitely on paper first, and have fun.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Pendy. Really appreciate it, brother.
No problem.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Shout out Pendy for taking the time, stepping up here, giving us a nice hour of his time. And yes, please paper trade, guys. All these concepts. If you have any questions, you know where to find him. Don't blow him up, but he's here to help. But yeah, that's it, team. I will upload this recording when it's done and go get some rest. We'll regroup in a few hours for weekend prep. Thanks again, Pendy.
Yep, no problem. Thanks, guys.